Ramadan Kareem, and welcome to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. Comment is the big conversation, the great debate, but it can only be either if you join in. That's why, above all, I need your telephone calls on 44208-601-4555. You call us, we'll call you back, establish a clear line, and remember, if you get on the television with me, the volume on your television has to be at 0, or I'll have to press swiftly on because no one will understand either of us. There's a 3-second delay in what I say to you and when you hear it. And if you've got your television volume up, it's simply impossible to conduct a conversation. You can also send me an SMS, which will go up there on the comment wall. Joy of joys, I'm so happy to have the comment wall back again. The SMS number is 447800008066. Or you can email me at comment@presstv.co.uk. That'll go up there on the comment wall too. And this being the 21st century, you can also tweet me at comment_presstv. And the wonderful Muna is working the Twitter, and a great job she's making of it, I must say. I've myself passed 180,000 followers on Twitter and something like 205,000 and climbing on Facebook. And just this week it's gone up by tens of thousands, and the reason is that it has been a truly remarkable week. The Israelis were flattening Palestine, and Israeli murderers were on the loose, killing several Palestinian people, including a young Palestinian boy whom they kidnapped and tortured, then murdered, then set on fire. So there's murder and mayhem everywhere. And of course, the principal place where it's going on is in Iraq, and that's what we'll be dealing with mainly this evening. We'll be asking, will Ramadan make any difference to what they call ISIL? Let's review what's happened since we last met 1 week ago. The declaration of the Caliphate, the Islamic State, was made by an utterly obscure, unknown individual calling himself Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. That's not his real name, of course. He's not even from Baghdad. But he claims that he is now the leader of all the Muslims from Indonesia to Morocco. And he demands bay'ah, or allegiance, to be sworn to him. And if you don't swear it to him, then you're no longer a Muslim. And that gives him, he says, the right to murder you in the most grotesque of ways. One of the characteristics of the Al-Qaeda mindset is their peculiar and gruesome addiction to filming themselves mutilating bodies, either dead or still alive. They seem to think that it's a good look to be filming yourself driving an electric drill into a young man's brain. They seem to think it's a good look to be cutting people's heads off, to be cutting their hearts out, to be eating their hearts and lungs. That's the kind of people they are. Well, most Muslims, the overwhelming majority of Muslims, of all sects, have absolutely no interest in pledging allegiance to this individual. First of all, they never heard of him before. No one has any idea what credentials, what qualities, what characteristics he has. Secondly, no one much fancies the utterly obscure and utterly reactionary interpretation of Islam that he not only practices himself, but will force you to practice should you come under his rule. And he says that as soon as any of his soldiers arrive in any jurisdiction, at that moment, the state in question becomes null and void. As soon as his fighters arrive there. And indeed, they are arriving. I was in Beirut for the first part of this week, and there's a very great anxiety there that ISIL has now arrived in Lebanon with a very clear agenda, of course. which is to create sectarian conflict and hopefully profit from it. I don't believe that that will succeed, though I'm sure blood will flow there as it is flowing already in oceans and rivers in Syria and Iraq. Of course, it's not all going Mr. al-Baghdadi's way, because for a start, there is already a man who pronounced himself the caliph of all the Muslims. His name was Mullah Omar. He had one eye and he rode off on a motorcycle, and despite being 6'6" tall, no one has been able to catch him or even spot him. So as far as he's concerned, and as far as the Taliban in Afghanistan are concerned, there already is a caliph. And in the caves, presumably in the Tora Bora or somewhere on the Afghan-Pakistan border, Ayman al-Zawahiri also regards himself as the big chief, the head of Al-Qaeda following the killing of Osama bin Laden. And then there is Al-Nusra Front, the Al-Qaeda franchise holder in Syria. They don't accept this ISIL proclamation either. So, with a bit of luck, maybe they'll all just murder each other rather than innocent people who come their way. Or maybe, just maybe, this guy will get lucky. Certainly, the politicians in Baghdad seem to be almost conspiring to make life easier for ISIL. The parliament met as scheduled in Baghdad this week and then promptly collapsed as the Kurdish, most of the Sunni, and a very significant number of Shiite politicians withdrew, making the session inquarate. And the reason was they don't want to accept a new term of office as Prime Minister for Prime Minister al-Maliki. They want someone else. But no one has put forward any name, never mind a credible name, any name at all. And so the parliamentary process is in abeyance, and Iraq is in grave and mortal danger. Just yesterday, the Kurdish leader Barzani announced that he's going to hold a referendum on Kurdish separation, on a breakaway by Kurdistan from the Iraqi Republic. That would be dangerous enough and pregnant with enough problems in the region, but of course Barzani's forces now hold the city of Kirkuk, vastly important to Iraq and indeed to the world as a huge, gigantic oil reservoir. And it's going to be difficult to get the Kurdish forces to withdraw from Kirkuk. If they don't withdraw from Kirkuk, they will be on a collision course, not just with the government in Baghdad, but with Iran and indeed with Turkey, which says that if Iraq continues to exist, then Mosul and Kirkuk can remain as Iraqi cities. But if Iraq is going to break up, then both Mosul and Kirkuk must become Turkish cities. So as you can see, it's a very, very explosive mix. The question is, will Ramadan make any difference to ISIL? Are they going to stop murdering people? They're going to stop cutting people's throats? They're going to stop crucifying people? That's their latest wheeze, crucifying people in public. Are they going to stop attacking the army of the Iraqi state? I doubt that any of those will happen. I doubt if Ramadan makes any difference to them at all. Maybe even make their bloodlust stronger. Are we in a mess in Iraq? Very definitely. Are we in a mess in Palestine? You bet. Are we in a mess in the Ummah as a whole this Ramadan? I think so. Amal is in the United Kingdom. Let's see what Amal thinks. Welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Sister, go ahead.
كل عام انت بخير, and I wish all Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are we messed? We are very messed. Will Ramadan change us? I doubt it, George. Those people who are killing in Iraq is those people who killed the grandson of the Prophet. It's those people who didn't accept the justice. But bottom of my heart, George, I wish my Ummah al-Islam, they will wake up. They will look at the atfal, the children, especially the Arab children. Today is another day for the Palestinian, another Ramadan for the Palestinian.
Another Ramadan, another massacre.
Another massacre, another war. Where is the Malayin of Arab? What are we doing? No, they will not stop the war in Iraq. It will go and go and go. Because the war is those who are benefiting, is those who benefit 1500, the time of the Prophet. And these people are existing with us, and they are with us.
Well, Amal,
but every Muslim, no, George, every Muslim who are really, truly Muslim, wake up and see who it goes. Who will be protected in this war? It's Israel. Who will be protected? It's Israel. Lebanon today, you see, Syria, the people of the Muqawama, they are shaked. Every street and every corner and every house, you will never hear the name of the Palestinian tonight. Only if they hear it, they will say in a couple of words, George, in the truly. They will talk maybe 2 minutes, not even 5. And then after that, the case is closed. Let the Palestinian, the problem be Palestinian problem. That is what they want to let us hear it. But every Muslim house, everyone who prays the 5 pillars, as long you don't stand for the right of the Palestinian, wallahi, 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 I'm speaking the words of what Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah said, you will never taste the sweet of the sweetness. And Allah will be not with you if you don't have the dam, the blood, to say it. La, ana muqaf. I don't respect and I don't accept. Israel is what they are making for the plan. It's not about Sunnah and Shia. It's not about Arabs and Christian. It's how we have to make Israel the only one country in the Middle East who is. It's not in the Middle East. It's made in the Middle East.
Well, Amal, that's a very, very powerful call to start the program this evening, and I'm slightly lost for words as to how to respond to you. But I will say this. In the corridor in this building, a man, a Palestinian man, who was for many years a blood brother of mine, who treated me as a hero as I broke the siege on Gaza over and over again, who respected me for 40 years of struggle for the Palestinian people, walked past me and only mumbled a reply to my salam in Ramadan, where once he would have kissed me on my head. Why? Even though he's a Palestinian, he's more concerned about the sect and about the political movement based on a sect than he is about the Ummah as a whole, than he is about the stand that some of us have taken in defense of the Arabs, in defense of the Palestinians. I have given my political blood, all of my adult life, for his people. And he couldn't bring himself to return my salam. That's sectarianism. That's sectarian madness. If you want my honest opinion, that's treason to the Palestinian people, because it proves that you are ready to put the interests of your own miserable little movement, of your own sect, over the interests, the sacred interests of the Palestinian people under attack. Millions of people, millions on Facebook, read a series of questions that I asked of the Arab leaders just this week. I asked them this. I said, Is there one, just one, Arab leader who will raise one finger to defend the Palestinian people in their pogrom, being bombed from sea, land and air, being massacred in front of your eyes? Is there one of you who will raise your finger? Where is the custodian of the two mosques? I asked. Where is Erdogan, the would-be Ottoman protector? Where are all these kings, all these emirs? There's only two Muslim leaders who are ready, who have always been ready, and who have proved with their blood and their children's blood that they are ready to defend the Palestinian people. One of them is Syed Hassan Nasrallah, and the other is the leader of the Iranian Revolution and his people. Yet these individuals want to make the Muslims hate them, want to make them the enemy, rather than those who are murdering the Palestinian people this evening. I'm sorry if that's a bit emotional, Amal, but you got the tears flowing in my eyes. Thanks very much for that call. Let's go to the comment wall and take our first email of the evening. Ali in London. Hi George, I think that the ISIS militants are aiming to stop attacking other towns and just stay where they are for the next month. They will instead try to build up their resources and work on public relations during Ramadan. I think that this will lull the Iraqi army and Maliki into a false sense of security. Well, that's a very smart analysis, Ali. I think that there's something in what you say. I don't believe actually that ISIS or ISIL can make any further military advances, but there's a big question mark over whether the Iraqi state can take back those parts of Iraq that are currently in their hands. Here's Ali in Malaysia. Let's hear what Ali has to say. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you very much, George. I'm pleased to be back on your show again. It's quite very, very touching and disheartening to see, all these civilians and also all the deaths in Iraq today, despite all that have happened, prior to this present situation. Particularly to your question, George, you asked if Ramadan would be a possible time that, groups like the IFIL could possibly, reduce their violence, because of the month of Ramadan. And I would say it's a clear no, because, not only now, but even if you look through the past, all that has happened in Syria and, other parts within the region, the period of Ramadan has not actually been a period where we would expect a reduction in violence across. However, if you look at the ISIL movement, should I call it, it's going towards an ideal picture of an Islamic state, which is not possible, which is unrealistic. If that is the case, then what are they after? If that is the case, remember, if we go back to history, the last time we had any form of an ideal caliphate system was, I think, back in 1924, in the late era of the Turkish Ottoman Empire. And what is happening today in Iraq is happening simultaneously with a number of other issues on ground. So for any drawback from ISIL, we would expect the equation to be imbalanced. So for them, they have to keep under pressure. Ramadan or not?
Well, but it's partly propaganda, Ali. Sorry, it's not a great line. It's partly propaganda, and they've had a fantastic amount of public relations and propaganda over this last few weeks. They have captured territory. They have captured great and historic Iraqi cities. They have made it difficult for Iraq to take that territory back. They still hold substantial territory, albeit not as they did in Syria. And they have the people in Lebanon anxious that explosions and atrocities are about to break out there. So in a way, the fighter like them doesn't have to win, he just has not to lose. And he can hit and move and decide when and when not to go forward. So it's a very tricky situation that we are now in. And it will be interesting to see what tactics they follow. Myself, I think they are gamblers. I don't mean actual gamblers, but they're gambling with their current position. If I can continue the metaphor, they think they've won the lottery, and they're probably likely to keep on gambling. And I think that they will come a cropper. Because the truth is this, that the kind of Islam that they are forcing down people's throats, or they cut their throats if they won't swallow it, is just against the way of life of the Arabs. The Arabs don't want to live the kind of life that ISIL wants to make them live. And that, in the end, will be the rocks on which they will founder. I believe that. My last point is this. You're in Malaysia, and this self-appointed caliph claims that the people in Indonesia, the world's biggest Muslim country, have to pledge their allegiance to him. But there's the small matter of the fact that the Indonesian people are this very weekend actually electing their leader. They're going to the polls to cast a vote to elect their president. The idea that hundreds of millions of Indonesians are, instead of choosing their own leaders, going to have to give bayah to some obscure individual in the west of Iraq is simply ridiculous. Let's squeeze quickly on to Ali Reza in Tanzania. Ali Reza, welcome.
Thank you, George. How are you?
By the grace of God, I'm good. Thanks for getting through. Go on.
Okay, I just wanted to add a few things about this ISIL, which is the topic for today.
Yep.
My observation is that Ramadan and the Islamic principle is not going to bring any magic to ISIL. Number one, also the propaganda, what they are doing, and they are calling upon all the Muslims. It's in Islamic also to kill a person. I mean, if we recall and take the lessons from the Holy Prophet, they have been disturbing, they have been raping ladies, they have been killing people, I mean, horribly. They have been torturing the dead bodies, they have been cutting heads. I don't find any magic from Ramadan going to come and assist the Muslim world. My appeal to the Muslim world is that this ISIL, they are not Muslim. I mean, also the word ISIL should not be the Islamic State of Muslim. These are not Muslim, but these are barbarians, baboons. This is what I can tell them. For the entire Muslim, the disheartening part is that the Arabs, the entire Arab world, they talk only one language, and that is Arabic. But surprisingly, today, there is no unity between themselves.
No.
The state, those are sponsoring the terror. It is shame that the fire what they have lit, willingly, this is what I predict, that they themselves will never be safe from the lit of fire.
Well, I agree with that, and that's the fundamental question, the disunity amongst the Arabs, and indeed elsewhere in the Ummah. And that's a question we'll continue to discuss in the second half of the show. We're talking about Iraq. I need to take a short break for a short news bulletin. Please don't go away. God willing, I'll still be here 3 minutes from now when you come back to comment. Welcome back to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. This is the big conversation. It's the great debate. And tonight we're discussing, indeed debating, the issue of Iraq. Will Ramadan make any difference to what they call ISIL? Muhammad Akbar is on the line from Kabul in Afghanistan. I'm not going to pass up the chance to talk to him. Welcome, Muhammad. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum once again.
Walaikum salam. Go ahead. Nice to hear from you.
I'll make it quick. I'm unable to see Peace TV, but your staff was more than generous to call me and tell me the topic.
Welcome.
So
You're welcome.
I don't have to watch the TV because it's a widespread topic. I really don't think it would make a difference in the policy of groups like Taliban and ISIS in trying to reduce attacks as such during Ramadan, because the fact is that these organizations are strangely and in fact supported by one of the some of the powerful nations I don't want to name, and we should try to above all understand the fact that who developed and designed Taliban, who developed and designed ISIS, what is the purpose? This is something that has to be focused. And if people think that people in Iraq and Afghans are people who love war, that's not the truth, unfortunately. That's not the truth. And it's really strange for anyone to see one of the strongest U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan recognizing Taliban and groups like ISIS, for example. In the past, as you know, Pakistan and Saudi were supporting these groups. Would it look so? Is it so stupid that these countries support these kind of groups and the West doesn't tell them anything? This is hard to believe, and it's illogical to understand.
Well, I think you can be certain.
I would like to say, George,
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but one more thing before I forget is the fact that, to make it very quick, I do understand that, Gaddafi and people like Assad are dictators, blah, 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 but they are not, I cannot call them really, extremist Islamists, They are moderate people, they are modern people, modern Muslims, modern Arabs with a secular thought. What the West is doing in supporting these people, if there's a very minor demonstration going on in a country, they go and support it, they fuel it more, and they give arms and money and different kind of strategy. And also, they teach them different kind of things that lead to terrorism and things like that. So what basically is happening in Syria and places like Libya and then elsewhere in the Middle East and Central Asia, I must say, is a chain reaction. They are trying to disrupt those nations that are against the West in a way, but the fact is that you are destroying secular, modern Arab and Muslims, unfortunately, and supporting and developing and giving roots to extremism.
Well, that's a very powerful call, a very powerful call.
I did not expect from the Obama administration, unfortunately.
Very powerful call, Mohammed, in Kabul, in Afghanistan. Very glad to hear from you. Please stay in touch with us as the Afghan story itself develops over the course of this year. I was only going to say one thing, that you can be certain of this, that neither Pakistan nor Saudi Arabia has an independent foreign policy, independent of the United States. So whatever they are doing is in one way or another endorsed by the United States of America. Thanks for that call. Let's go to Sweden, from Kabul to Sweden, where Al is on the line. Al, welcome.
Hi, Mr. Galloway. Now, I was thinking for a while that you don't want to take my call because
I'm very happy. I'm very happy to hear from you. Go ahead.
I'm glad this is not the case because I realized it. I'm sorry about my thoughts on that.
Okay.
Now, I begin with disagreeing with you on that you said nobody has put a name to be a prime minister, because I definitely know that Saeed Ammar al-Hakim has put 2 or 3 names to the prime minister, especially in these chaotic times. And today I'm against you, especially because that I think that Press TV, Comment has become a program that praises the people who make speeches about cruelty of ISIL, and so on. And I agree on that. This is very important. But I think we definitely go out of the point. Now what we need is to find a solution, to put the blame on people like you did last week, and to try and find a solution. This is a little bit like the people who blame everything on colonization and don't want to try to advance. I'm sorry if this opinion is really against you and your viewers, but they need to hear that, I think. And our big problem is, of course, al-Maliki, which will be written in history because he made the division easier for everybody who wanted it. And he even asked for U.S. intervention and so on. I mean, he did everything that is shameful to everybody in Iraq. I don't understand why that. Now, on your point on the Kurdish that they want to split, I think they will not do that. They will try to benefit from Iraq as much as they can, because maybe you know that they get a lot of advantages that no other country gets it. And if you're not aware of it, I can talk about it. It's especially economical, concerning the taxes, the jobs, a lot of benefits. For example, when you get any product from Turkey, they have to go through Kurdistan, so-called federal state, and the Iraqi state has to pay for them. But in the end of the fiscal year, we have to pay the aid to Kurdistan, but not vice versa. They don't pay from their income from oil, and so on and so on. There are so many of these examples.
Go on.
Well, if I'm allowed to go on, I thought of the time. Well, of course, we are very angry at the government, especially because Mr. Maliki has agreed only to go out only after meeting with Kerry, because he wants to secure his chair and what the Americans want, and not the security of people. We have always heard during the 2 first weeks that Baghdad is safe and Baghdad is safe. What about the other cities? Where are the forces that you are going to send to the other cities? What is the experience? Of course, the Americans have pumped a lot of money into Iraq, probably $41 billion. I know half of it came to Iraq. Where is this half? What does the government do with it? Just not training the people in the right way.
Well, I don't know why you imagine that I would regard what you've said as some kind of attack on me. Actually, I agree with the implication of many of the things that you have said. You were wrong to correct me, however, on the subject of other names. I said that no other name was put forward at the parliamentary session, and no other name was put forward at the parliamentary session. That's why the quorum disappeared. Now, I have said on this very program that you traduce more than once, twice, 3 times, that I don't believe that al-Maliki has been a success. I believe that many of his mistakes have led us to this situation. I haven't yet heard the name of anyone better, but maybe one will come forward. I haven't yet heard the name of anyone who doesn't have all the problems that Maliki has and doesn't have actually all the qualities that he has. But I hope that we hear one, because what is needed, and I've said this 3 times on comment, is a real national government, an emergency government in Baghdad, which somehow manages to bring inside the tent all of the sects, all of the currents, all of the trends. Now, maybe Mr. Maliki can achieve that. I have my doubts about that. I also disagree with you about the Kurds. Of course, they have many advantages by remaining within Iraq. But I don't believe that Barzani has announced a referendum for nothing. He is going to have a referendum. He's going to achieve a huge majority for a separate state in Iraq. And his argument will be that Iraq effectively no longer exists. Indeed, Talibani said that yesterday, that Iraq is already partitioned. And so the logic is that we ourselves take ourselves off into an independent state. I'm not suggesting it's going to happen tomorrow or in a month or 6 months, but unless this problem of ISIL can be solved in Iraq, then ineluctably the country is going to fall apart. And that matters to me a very, very great deal. I hope you will accept that. Thanks for your call, and don't think for 1 minute that we don't want critical calls on this program. We absolutely do, and I deal with them as honestly as I possibly can. Let's go back to the comment wall and take an email. Salto in Berlin, Germany. George, hello. What will happen to ISIL militants if Russia gets involved? And what will happen to Chechen parts of Russia if Russia get involved? Well, I think the Chechen issue is resolved now within Russia. Chechnya has a very powerful and very popular government, and Chechnya is a very, very wealthy place nowadays. So I don't think there's any Chechen implications. I do think that Russia is already involved, and why not? After all, the United States is the superpower that brought us to this disaster in Iraq. Why shouldn't another superpower try to help the Iraqi people in their hour of need? And despite Iraq having already paid for huge amounts of military aid to the United States, none of it has yet arrived, especially air power. The Iraqi government is grossly deficient in air power. And in a war of movement, like this war with ISIL has been, air power is absolutely essential. So the Russians have stepped in and delivered MiGs and other aircraft to the Iraqi Air Force. And as the government in Baghdad said the other day, if the United States will not help us with weapons that we require, then we'll have to take aid from other places. Now, another email. That one was from Berlin. This one's from Southampton. Sandra says, George, 2,400 dead in June alone. Seriously. And the cheek of that barbarian Blair not accepting that it's all his fault. George, when your film comes out, it better come out with a bang, because this needs to be buried once and for all. What are you going to do to make serious noise in Britain? Please don't tell me it's just going to be a few articles and some YouTube videos. Why can't you do what Michael Moore did? Well, I'm trying exactly that, Sandra. And if you know me, you know that I don't do small videos on YouTube. As a matter of fact, a significant turn of events has left me confident that we'll deliver a bumper film, The Killings of Tony Blair, by the end of this year, and that it will be seen throughout the world, even in the place where Omar is calling from, and that's New York City in the United States. Omar, welcome to the show, brother.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks a lot for having me on the show, and first and foremost, thanks a lot for your continuous efforts on trying to get attention for the ongoing crisis in Palestine.
Thank you.
And exposing the legitimacy of the Israeli Zionist state.
Thank you.
The question here is Ramadan going to have any effect on ISIL? Absolutely not. Because when we look back at ISIL, not just ISIL, but other groups such as Ansar al-Sharia or the Taliban, let's see where it all started. All these extremist groups, they started with funding. Where did this funding come from? They all came from us, from the very West. So that's not just the United States of America, but that's Europe, that's France, UK.
Well, not using our own money, Omar. We ordered it to be done, but actually the money came from what they call Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely, absolutely, which is even more despicable because they are the same Arab brothers who always love to shout from the rooftops that they are standing with one another. It's a big shame. And this also answers the question because ISIL doesn't have anything to do with Islam. Now, I am far from a good Muslim, but I know this, that they have no right to speak in the name of Islam, and most of the billion Muslims in this world know so. This is some twisted ideology, and to think that Ramadan would affect them is just purely hypocritical. It's such a nonsense that now the West is thinking of helping Iraq, which is, I mean, they should, obviously. But let's not forget how they started. They started with their own funds. Only a few days ago, Obama said that they would give more than $500 million of U.S. dollars to, and I quote, moderate rebel groups.
Moderate extremists.
Moderate extremists, exactly. But I mean, for me personally, an extremist is an extremist, and for me, it doesn't really matter how extreme they are. They are extreme.
Omar,
and
can I just ask you a question? I'm enjoying your call very much, and I hope you'll be a regular. I want to ask you something. Is there anybody in the United States asking, number one, don't we have other uses for $500 million than to give it to moderate extremists in Syria? And second, given how badly it's all going, isn't this just throwing good money after bad? Is anyone asking that in the media, in the political class in the United States?
Unfortunately not, and I think it's a big shame that you're not being invited more over to the United States of America, because for some reason it's ridiculous. I mean, anybody can see here that these little babies that we fed are growing out to be extreme groups that we eventually have to deal with. We see it with the Taliban, we're seeing it now with ISIL, and we're still thinking of funding more, and I quote again, moderate extremist groups from you. It's absolute nonsense. The fact, the reason why ISIL will not stop during Ramadan is because they are not inspired by religion. They're using religion as like a camouflage, as an excuse to do their criminal activities, but they have absolutely nothing to do with it.
Omar, that's a wonderful call. I'm going to cut it short just because of pressure of calls. I really do hope I speak to you again. Thanks for that. And from New York, we go to Geneva. Bani is on the line in Geneva. Welcome, Bani.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Galloway. I wish you a Mubarak month of Ramadan.
Thank you so much.
And these two gentlemen who they gave their comments, they are totally right. What happened is this program of Syria and Iraq has been programmed already, as Imam Khomeini said, Grand Satan, the big devil. And this is not going to stop now, unfortunately, because their aim is to really make Islam as a dirty religion, make the whole world to see how the people are treating one another in Islam. And in my opinion, what they are doing is not matching with any kind of ideology in the world. But they put the stamp of Islam on it in order to make the Islam world more and more weak. This is the aim of Mr. USA. And who is profiting in all this scenario in this world today is Israel.
Well, Bani, that's a very, very good call, a very powerful call. I only demur to this extent. There is no doubt at all that Israel, the United States, Britain, the imperialist countries are very much behind this phenomenon of extremism. They wish to cause division. They would like to see not 23 but 123 Arab Emirates rather than the 23 states. And then they could sell weapons to them all. They could whip up trouble between them all, have them all at war with each other on a sectarian basis, and whilst they stole their wealth. I've got no doubt about that. I just make this caveat. It's really not difficult to divide the Muslims. It's really not difficult at all. Islam is perfect, but the Muslims are something different. I'm sorry, but I'm feeling rather pained about that point right this evening. Bani, thanks for that call in Geneva. Let's go to Moscow and talk to Isa. Isa in Moscow, hello. Welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Good evening, Judge Galloway.
Well, it's great to hear from you. I don't often get calls from Moscow nowadays. Go ahead.
Yeah. I will greet you people all in the name of Islam. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So, I would rather recall you back in some time prior to the invasion of Iraq. You remember General Wesley Clark, his statement, when he came back from his office. He said, I have a piece of paper coming from the head office which says that we have to take down 7 countries in 5 years. So if you can look in the list of those 7 countries, you will see that Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and the showdown, Iran. Now, in that list, who are those people that have been invaded? Iraq, for what reason? weapons of mass destruction. Syria, change of regime. Lebanon fighting who? The Hezbollah and the Shia. Who is Hezbollah fighting against in the Middle East? You know. Libya for what? Division, break down Gaddafi. Somalia, division. Sudan, between the north and the south. Now Iran is remaining. You can see who created this agenda. From the agenda and the playmaker of the board, you will know where all this invasion and division among the Muslims is going
I get that point very well. Isa, I'm going to press on because I have only time for one more call. But that was great to hear from Moscow. It's also good to hear from Muscat in Oman, where Abdullah will be our last caller. Abdullah, quickly, please.
Yeah, Mr. George, how are you today? Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you, brother. Very good to hear from you. By the grace of God, I'm good.
Mr. George, I like you too much.
Thank you, brother.
I want to say hi to you and wish you Ramadan Kareem, inshallah.
Oh, Allah. Thank you so much indeed. Ramadan Mubarak to you and all your family. Tell me this.
I'm really happy to talk with you today, brother.
Tell me this, Abdullah. How is it looking in Oman, strategically placed as it is? Is this Iraq?
I welcome you. I welcome you. I want you to visit Oman. It's very, very lovely country.
I'm certain of that. I've never been there, but you better take permission from the Sultan first. Abdullah, how is
they will allow you to come. They will allow you to come because everyone like you. They will allow. There is no problem.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Abdullah, how does it look there? Does Ramadan look like the possibility of a break from all this killing, or is it going to continue in Iraq just as before?
Really, those people who are fighting there, I don't think they're really Muslim. It is only a Muslim name, but I really don't think they're Muslim because Muslim never kill other Muslim.
Well, I wish that was true, Abdullah. I know it's true in theory. Yeah. I know it's true in theory, but not in fact, in practice.
Practically. Yeah.
Abdullah,
let us hope.
I want to.
Let us hope.
I need to go now, Abdullah. We'll have to talk another time. But I just want to say this. I'm grateful for the efforts that Oman is making to bridge gaps and to try to smooth rough edges and to try and bring about an end to all this madness. So I've never been to your country. I have no relations with your government. But I just wanted to make the point, you being on the line, of saying that I think Oman is doing everything that it can to try and solve some of these issues, and I'm grateful for that. Abdullah in Muscat in Oman was the last caller, but I'll be back here, God willing, next week. I hope you'll join me for comment.
Hello, if you comment, take the name and the Facebook account number. And just make sure it's like your television volume set to 0. Can you spell your name for me? Yeah, I know. You redirect me to the phone number and then we'll call you back.